All right, you're watching the Power Hour, and today's guest has faced childhood trauma from a very young age. But instead of letting it break her, she turned her pain into purpose. Her story is one of resilience, healing, and hope. Please welcome Coach Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing good, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show. And I have to say, you're an inspiration to so many people. And I'm proud of the woman who you are today. And we're
Yeah.
going to get into your story. Let's start from the beginning. Can you take us back to your earliest memories? What were some of the challenges you had to face coming up?
My earliest memories really is trauma. It really is. When I look back at the story, Larry, I say, wow, I was literally born into abuse. Like from early on. Um, the earliest that I can remember currently five or six.
Mhm.
And I only got this memory at 51, 52. And that memory was me sitting on my father's lap. And he used to always play Rocky Horse, like my legs would straddle him, and he
Yeah.
would rock up and down. And he was, engaging my chest area.
Mm.
And I remember my mom coming in and her using profanity language, and then it stopped. That's my earliest memory. But now the memories that got a little deeper is when, and rest in peace to my sister, she's no longer here.
Right.
Um, she introduced me to oral sex. I was coerced into performing oral sex on her. I believe I was 9, maybe 9 or 10, 8. And of course the memories are going to be fragmented with age, of course.
Right. Right.
So that was the first introduction that I remember. And then after that, she would have us engage in other sexual activities with boys and girls of the community. And that
Mm.
looked like us performing oral on each other and just doing things that children shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And that went on for some time. That went on for a while. I can't tell you exactly how long, obviously, because as a child, you're not really paying attention to time. But I
Right.
know it happened quite often where we would be in this room with maybe 4 or 5 boys, 4 or 5 girls, and we were literally engaging in sexual activities, and she was telling us what to do.
Wow.
Yeah. And from there, this story is kind of sick right here. The guy that was living with us, he was called Chester the molester in the
Mm.
community. Now we don't know what that means. As children, you just hear these
Right.
terms. And he was in the room next to my parents, right, molesting one of my sisters, the other sister, the one that's deceased, the one
Mm.
that had me perform oral on her. He was right in the next room next to our parents molesting her. And I believe he paid my father $150, right, to molest
Wow.
her. Yes. So this guy at 9, he then came into the back room and he disrobed himself, basically exposed his private parts. And I went and told my father, and his words were, "Your fast ASS shouldn't have been playing with him." But nevertheless, it continued, right? The coercions continued, the physical abuse, the volatility. At 10, I literally stood right behind my father as he took his 45 and pulled the trigger at my brother. So it was
Mm.
traumatic from early on, and it didn't stop. It just continued. The actual penetration started when I was about 13. My parents separated, and thank God my mom actually finally left my dad when she did, because he probably would have taken her out.
Mm.
But nevertheless, they separated. My mom got a new guy and moved on, and he didn't want me or any of her children to live with him, so we couldn't go. So everybody moved, and I was the only kid that was left with my dad. So he decided he couldn't take care of me anymore. So then I had to move with an older family member. And the guy that was molesting my sister, right, the same guy who disrobed himself to me, he was in this home. So I'm thinking days after I moved in there, the sexual abuse started. And I can clearly remember that day because I think it was Easter.
Mm.
And we slept in the dining area. And then the person that I live with, and I try not to use so much information because, you know, there's other family members, right?
Right.
Who you don't want to tell their story. You do want to just try to be respectful. However,
Right.
the story is in my book. So, I mean, it's there.
Right.
So we slept in the dining area, and the sister that I lived with, her room was like right before that one. And he would come from the living room areas. We had like one of those enclosed porches where he was with the sister, and he would come in the back. And I remember him coming in and molesting me the first time. And knowing what it is now, I dissociated. I didn't know what that was. We weren't taught about sex. That wasn't a thing that was discussed in our family. And I remember waking up and asking my sister, what is this white stuff in my underwear? Didn't even know what it was. It never stopped. That went on, I think, for a year, and then I got blamed for it. So this is what this guy did. So he came and told me to come out of the room, right? He told me to come out of the room, and my sister was laying on the floor, and there was a couch right next to her. He molested me right on the couch and then bumped her to wake her up so she can see it. And so when she woke up, at that time, he was considered her boyfriend, right? But this guy has always been known as a child molester. And so when she woke up, her exact words were, I'm telling Bridget, you're in here effing, his name was Nippy at that time. Yeah. So I got blamed for it. And I was put out that day. The police were called. He got a slap on the wrist, and then it ended. But it started back. Because when we got evicted from that apartment that we were living in, we moved, and that guy was still around. He was still around in the space of my sister's boyfriend, right? And so I got put out, right? The one that I was living with early on, she put me out. And I remember we lived in the projects in Chicago, and I remember just standing there in the hallway of the building with a little bag. He threw all of my clothes out and slammed the window shut. And then he just happened to walk up, and he said, what are you doing out here? And I was like, my sister put me out. He was like, well, come with me. This guy confined me to that one little room. He was living with his auntie, and in the bedroom that I slept in, there was a lock from like the outside. So the only way I can go in and out is if that lock was unlocked. So I was in there for 3 years, and he basically drugged and, raped me for the entire 3 years. Yeah. So I got out of that house when it came down to me almost getting kicked out of high school. And school was my thing. Like, I loved school, tutoring in school. I was always a good student. So I was like, no, I can't get kicked out of school. And I remember the principal telling me, you miss one more day from school, we're kicking you out. So I basically I stopped resisting. I stopped fighting. It was what it was. And so I devised a little plan in my head to just go along with whatever this guy says, because you cannot get kicked out of school. So I just started being nice, and I was working, and I would, whatever he wanted. You want money, that's fine. Whatever I got to do, I have to finish school. So I graduated. But prior to that, I would always call my grandparents, just on holidays, saying, Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas. And I happened to call on Thanksgiving, and my grandma answered the phone. I said, hey, Grandma, I just wanted to call you and tell you Happy Thanksgiving. And she was like, your mother is here. And I was like, my mom is there? I was like, can I speak to her? So my mom got on the phone. I was immediately, Mom, can I come live with you? Because I had to get out of this house. And the sad part was that, my mom was with this man for 5 years. So I went from 13, I think I saw her twice in a 5-year period. And I loved my mom. I saw her twice. So when I called, I was so excited to just go back home to my mom. I just wanted to be out of here. But it wasn't an easy getaway, right? He grabbed a gun and shot it at my foot. I don't know if it was bullets in there, right? I just know I heard a loud noise. I didn't see a hole in the ground, so I think it was just a noise. And that was him basically trying to make me stay. He put a knife to my neck, beat me up, but I was adamant about getting out of this house. I know where my mother is. I'm getting out of here, And I had a friend, her name was Angie. She was a lot older than me. We worked together. And I called her and I was like, I found my mother. I need to get out of this house. Can you help me? And so back then, there are no cell phones. There's only the phone, right? So you ain't calling nobody on a cell phone. So I told her to just call and let the phone ring when she saw him walk past, because he always left out at a certain time. And I had her parked maybe not a block down, but a half a block down. I said, when you see him walk past, just call the phone, let it ring one time, and then I'll run out. And that's how I got out of that house. But it didn't get better. Now I got to deal with all the anger and frustration that I have towards my mom. But that was from 5, 6, 7 up until 18. And it did stop. Because now there's the adult trauma. Go ahead, Larry. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's what I was going to say. What helped you get through those times at that young age? What got you through mentally?
School. And you know what? Let me say this. My mom had her own trauma, obviously, and so did my dad. But this is what I remember, Larry. My mom and dad used to always tell me they loved me. They
Mhm.
used to always kiss and hug me. They used to always compliment me. I was the golden child, if anybody knows family roles. And the golden child basically gets all the positive energy projected
Right.
onto them,
Mhm.
right? They can do no wrong. And so, even in the midst of this abuse, right, I was still getting the compliments and, encouraged, right? And those words stuck with me. They stuck with me. Even in the
Yeah.
midst of having all of this trauma, I never forgot, my dad saying you're a go-getter. You can do what a man can do. Go to college and get your degree and don't have kids. And my mom saying you're so pretty and you're so smart. And they always just complimented me. And that love that I remembered, right, was what I was fighting for. I was
Right.
fighting with that love. And so I decided that I'm not gonna let this stop me, right? I'm
Right.
not gonna let this can't be it, right? This can't be
Right.
it. So school, right? When I finished high school, I didn't have anybody to aspire to, like who went to college. We didn't have that in our family.
Right.
So as a child, it was school for me. It was school, going in
Mm.
school and being amongst people and just seeing their stories. There was this one girl, her name was Lonita. She was a good friend of mine, and I would always go to her mom's house and we would visit. And her house was nice, and even though it didn't seem abusive, everybody had their story, but her mom was always nice. Her sisters were kind. They were married, and I saw something different.
Yeah.
Saw something. I was like, I want this. I want this thing. I want a family with this thing. I want sisters that love me and sisters that are kind. And, I want this peace that I saw in her home and food. And it was just pretty and it was clean. That was an inspiration for me too. Just seeing something different,
Yeah.
being at Hyde Park and being introduced to families. Again, they may have had their own stories, but I don't know that. But I'm
Yeah.
looking on the outskirts. I'm looking on the outside and I'm seeing something that looks good. I'm like, I want this. So just being in high school, right? Just being inspired by other students, and then just my love of learning. Being in school, that was an escape for me.
Yeah. And like you said, it didn't stop there. Off into your adulthood, you ended up on drugs.
Ooh. So I was selling drugs.
Oh.
Let me tell you the story of the drugstore. So I never used drugs.
Okay.
I wind up selling drugs, but that same sister introduced me to cocaine at 14. She
Okay.
told me to sniff it, and I didn't like the feeling of it. However, when I was in that room with that man, he gave it to me again, and then he said, "Don't use this stuff. It's not good for you."
Mm.
He was the
Yeah.
reason that I didn't get on drugs. So the introduction of my sister and then him, it was like a two-time thing. So never did I use hardcore drugs, but I was definitely smoking as much marijuana and drinking as much liquor as I can to get out of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To kill that. Yeah. That pain that you were in. Yeah. You had to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So now, fast forward.
hmm
You're here today.
hmm
You're where are you at now in your life?
Larry, I must say, I just did a live on TikTok, and I get emotional when I say this.
It's a safe space. Take your time. Obviously, you're doing well. You're looking well. You're helping others
I
get
am.
through whatever it is they're going through, which someone I'm pretty sure may be going through the exact same thing you've gone through that you've been pulled from. You know what I mean? So you're doing
These
well.
these last 8 months
Hmm.
is the first time in my life,
Mm.
maybe 9 months, that I actually know what peace feels
Mm.
like in my body.
Mm.
So there's an emotional peace, but then there are tears of joy. And not only that, I would always say, what does it mean to love yourself? What does that mean? How do you do that? I know what it means today. I'm in a space that I truly love and value myself today. I honor me. I respect me. I know my value. I know my worth. And I am a beautiful person. I am valuable. I am worthy. I am loved. And I know that. And I feel
Mm.
that deeply inside of me today. But it hasn't been a long time of being here. You know, so when you say, where am I today? I finally love me, right?
Wow.
I finally understand my value. I finally understand my worth. I understand my purpose. I know why I was born to do exactly what I'm doing. And I don't regret anything. I don't regret any part of my story, because if I regret anything, then how do I say I love where I am today?
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go. Now,
yeah.
healing from trauma, it's not a straight line. Have you
No.
had any setbacks?
Let me see. So I think the setback that I had was this. So when you're being molested, right, it's a secret, right?
Right.
So unconsciously, that's downloaded as a secret. However, it's still a relationship. It's sickening, but it's still a relationship. So I'm the secret in this relationship. So that led me to dating a married man because I was used to being a secret,
Yeah.
right? So I did that a few times. And then right around 38, that was the setback because I told myself, after the first guy, and then my son's father was in a relationship. So it was kind of like almost a secret, but not fully a secret, but I was okay with being a secret. So I'm doing my work at that time, right? Just trying to figure out like you got to get better, you got to change your behaviors, you got to figure out how this abuse has impacted you. And that was the main thing I said, don't you ever involve yourself in somebody's relationship ever again, whether it just be somebody dating or marriage. But I had a setback at like right around, I knew I was living in Calumet Park, so I couldn't have been no more than maybe 28 or 29. This was actually before I met my son's father. And I wind up getting involved with a married man, and we had a one-time thing, and I was like, you can't do that, you can't be a secret,
Yeah.
right? You can't. And so that was a setback, but then I wind up doing it again. So for that, it was me making a promise to myself, but then not sticking to the promise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that setback. Another setback may have been, I tried suicide. Well, I had suicide ideations at 14, and then I was at a mental institution at 18 for suicidal ideations. And then it came into fruition at 30. I think my son was 2, so I had to be 33. I took 16 pills
Mm.
and I was done with life. So, you know, you're trying to navigate life and you're trying to create these new behaviors. And I was just trying to figure out, how do I love myself? Like, what do I do with all of this pain? And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't, you
Yeah.
know, and so it was so harsh and so hard being in that family. I was like, it's not even worth living. So even after writing Perfectly Planned, writing Overcoming Toxic Relationships, right? Even after writing these books, I was still dealing with, am I worthy? Am I
Yeah.
valuable? Right? What
Yeah.
does that mean? Because these things were not taught. When you're born into a home of abuse, that's all you know.
Yeah.
That's all you know. And even though people say, oh, you're supposed to love and value yourself, what does that mean to
Yeah.
somebody I've had many setbacks, but
Mm.
today I'm staying strong and I love me. Now, my life is not perfect. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I take care of me, right? I eat highly nutritious food. I exercise daily. I'm in the sauna every weekend, right? I'm meditating. I'm using positive affirmations. They're all over my house. And so I speak life into me daily because I don't want another setback. A
That was going to
setback.
be
Mhm.
no. I was going to say that was going to be my next question. How do you continue to take care of your mental,
Yes.
state? But yeah, yeah, you're doing well. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
While you've written, what's the name of the books again?
So Perfectly Planned, Overcoming Incest, Rape, and Sexual Abuse is my first book. And then Overcoming Toxic Relationships, and then Detox or Diet. That's my book of naturally healing my entire body from 23 different diseases, having intestinal worms in me, alopecia,
Mm.
hypothyroidism, and healing my body naturally. And then there's a workbook to the first one. There's Mental Makeover, which is a book of quotes. And then there is It's All About Life, which is a book of poems, but they're true short stories. And then my most current one is Building a Better Me, The Tools. And I'm actually working on my 8th book. I married my father. The man that
Wow.
I married was just like my father.
Wow. Now, they say everyone has a purpose. We go through things in life, and whether it's good or bad, we go through things in life. What do you think your purpose in life is for today?
I'm right inside of my purpose. My purpose was my path was my path, first of
Mhm.
all. It's my path. And there is no way you can go through all of what I went through and tell me that what I'm doing is not my purpose. I am
Absolutely.
supposed to be writing books. I am supposed to be inspiring people. I am supposed to be a therapist. I am supposed to be using my life and how I navigate it to help people heal from trauma. I am inside of my purpose.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you so much for joining me. We're running out of time. Your story is amazing. Um, Thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Larry,
It's
for
been
having me.
absolutely. Where can they get your books if they want to pick it up?
All of my books are on Amazon.com. You can also inbox me. I have the ebooks, but Amazon.com. And I'll share this really quick. To find all of them quickly, you just type in Google Kelly Porter, that's Kelly with the EY, and you type the name of my first book or sixth book, Detox or Diet, Closing the Gap Between Disease and Death. If you type that in Google, you'll get all of my books.
There you go. We'll make
Yeah.
sure we do that. All right. You're watching the Power Hour.
Thank you, Larry.
Absolutely.